Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host, Kushalmehra. I want to begin today's podcast by wishing everyone a very happy Good Riddance Day. 14th August is the day Pakistan was created. As we say in Hindi, Punjabi, Pind Chuta. So, yes, Punjabis lost lives and many others lost lives. But in hindsight, good riddance. And today's podcast is not about 14th August. Today's podcast is about something that has been in the news for a few days. If you guys don't know, Hindenburg released another report, this time a second report uh, about the Adani group. And there has been a lot of back and forth. And this time they have made some serious allegations. Now, I did not know what to make of it. And then I saw Ajay making a lot of points on this. Ajay had even gone on NDTV and many other platforms to explain this. And he was also explaining this on social media. I've been looking at Ajay's work for a while. So, Ajay, welcome. And this is your first time on the podcast. So, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background, so that the listeners and viewers know a little bit about you too?
Sure. So I'm from Bangalore. Been here all my life. Been a tax consultant, tax advisor for the last 20 plus years. A chartered accountant by qualification, uh, and more importantly, a Bangalorean, true Bangalorean. Never lived in any city other than Bangalore. It's a rare commodity in this part of the country. So that's about me. Enjoy tweeting. Tweeting is helps me get a side of me which I surprises me sometimes myself. So
Yeah. No, we all surprise ourselves in that sense when it comes to Twitter. But Ajay, can we start like this? Can we actually steelman the case, as in put the case on behalf of Hindenburg first? That
yes,
what is Hindenburg actually accusing? Because if the accusations that are being made by Hindenburg are serious, then this actually is a matter of grave concern, because at least when it comes to the RBI and SEBI, these are really respected institutions in India,
right,
and they are usually known to, in fact, I mean, we have common friends, Ajay. Harsh. Harsh is a common friend of both you and I.
right,
And something that Harsh, I know Harsh, Rajiv, all of us, we keep whining about is, oh, RBI doesn't listen to the government. RBI just is in a world of its own. They do what they have to do. And then something like this comes. And
right.
Harsh has been very harsh on SEBI too, on many occasions on his public statements. So when something like this comes, my first request to you is, even if it takes some time, explain what the Hindenburg accusations are first.
Sure. And I completely agree with the points you made on both RBI and SEBI. I've dealt with multiple regulators in my career, and nobody comes as close to RBI and SEBI in terms of sort of doing their role in a absolute no nonsense approach. Sometimes come across as not regulators with a soft touch, and particularly important because of the areas that they deal with, which is foreign exchange and investor protection. So, I think they are doing a fantastic job. And keeping that aside, let me just move to Hindenburg. So, when we have to look at Hindenburg, and before we sort of get to the allegations and the reports that they have put out, uh, very important to know who they are. And that background gives a lot of context to what they are doing. So, they are not a not for profit. They are not a civil society organization looking at financial frauds or any of that, and they don't claim to be one. What they do is deep thorough research, and there can be two ways on what their credibility is today after some of these reports, and we'll discuss that as we move along. But what they do is deep research on companies which they believe are overvalued, or which they believe have certain issues which is not in the public domain, but data to arrive at those conclusions are actually in public domain. So they don't sort of do any insider information in that sense. Do research. They advise their clients and people who follow them and people who they work for to take short positions. So what's shorting a stock? Essentially selling it without having the stock. Therefore, you sell it today, and then with the hope that the price will fall and you can buy it back and make that profit. So they are short sellers. They've been awarded as the best short sellers a few years. This is what they've been doing. They've done this very well in some of the US stocks, actually to pick up issues, do research, put out a good research report, which actually show what the issues with the company are. And they call themselves Hindenburg because of the famous Hindenburg explosion, and they believe that there are a lot of Hindenburgs which are flying, which are just about to explode, and that's the background that they give for themselves. So we need to remember that these are professional short sellers. They are not here to correct our system. They're not here to make the financial markets better in different parts of the world. No, that's not what they're doing. uh, so these they picked up Adani for a reason, that they believe that there are some fundamental corporate governance issues, and there are issues how the company is run, and therefore there is a scope for the prices to fall if certain of these things are brought to public domain. So they first came out with their first report in Jan 23, and what we are seeing today is their second report. And in terms of allegations, the first one had more damaging allegations, and I'll lay out what the difference between the two are. The first report in Jan 23 basically said that this is almost a scam and a financial bubble in terms of asset prices. They are artificially high because there are multiple things that Adani has not done right, and whether it is governance, whether it is related party transactions, pricing, tax issues. So they laid out a whole host of things, and one of the important things was that Adani is probably not adhering to the minimum public float, which is any listed company needs to have at least 25% shares with the public, and promoters can't be controlling. And they believe that that 25% is artificial. There are some cross holdings because of which the prices have artificially been driven up. So in summary, the Jan 23 report said there are too many things wrong with Adani, and therefore they believe that the price has to be corrected. And then the price fell. This was just before a follow-on public offer that Adani was planning to do, and they had to withdraw that. And then, as expected, most times that's been happening now locally. Our political situation here, people went to the Supreme Court to say that there has to be a special investigation team. This has to go to CBI, and SEBI is not doing enough, and so and so. So Supreme Court took its time, set up its own inquiry, called SEBI, asked them what they are doing. SEBI said they are indeed investigating some of these even before the Hindenburg report, and they said there are 24 investigations that were ongoing, of which 22 have been completed, and they sought time for the rest of it. And about roughly a year after that, Jan 24, but 7-8 months before today, is when Supreme Court said that SEBI is the only authority who can investigate these things. There is no need for a SIT. There's no need for anybody else to be looking at it, no CBI, etc. SEBI is doing its job. Yes, it's taken time, but then SEBI has to do this and complete it and give the report. Now, this was ongoing. SEBI has sought an extension, etc. And we'll come to why and what SEBI is doing after this brief introduction. June 24 is when something very important happened. June 24, SEBI actually issued a show cause notice to Hindenburg themselves, because SEBI said, you've got your clients to sell stocks, take short positions before you issued the report, and thereafter you issued the report. And we believe that there are some non-compliances and violations of Indian securities law, and therefore explain what you have actually done, what your clients have done, etc. Very interestingly, Hindenburg literally thumbed their nose at SEBI to say that, you can't be issuing this show cause. You're not doing your job. You should have been investigating, and you can't today come and ask us. And they put out the entire show cause notice on their website. They put responses to that rather than responding to SEBI. So there were two investigations in that sense. One against Adani on the first set of allegations that Hindenburg made in 23. Second, on Hindenburg itself. The latest report that's been released, very interestingly, has very little to do with Adani. While they use the thread, they say, they give the background and all of it, but the entire thing is actually an allegation about the SEBI chairperson. So the current report basically says there are three issues, large ones, with the SEBI chairperson, and therefore SEBI is not doing a right job. First one being that the chairperson and her husband are invested in certain companies outside India which allegedly hold Adani shares. Second one being that the SEBI chairperson has consulting income, services companies where she's earning income and therefore is compromised. And number three being that SEBI chairperson's husband is an advisor to Blackstone. And then there have been some law and changes in regulations that have been made to suit only Blackstone. And therefore, all these established that the SEBI chairperson is not independent, is not functioning as a fair regulator, and they leave it at that. So basically, the second set of allegations are all about the SEBI chairperson, nothing to do with Adani. And they only link it to say that she is not, or SEBI is not moving ahead with the Adani investigation and coming out with a report because of all these conflicts and independence issues with the SEBI chairperson. That's where we are today. And thereafter, SEBI has come out with a response to say that their investigation is ongoing. They have examined 12,000 pages of paper, called thousands of people on summons, recorded statements. And when the investigation is complete, they'll come out with a report. And that's how SEBI works. And therefore, Adani has not been given a clean sheet as yet. Investigations are ongoing. And they have reiterated that Hindenburg has to respond to their show cause. And that's SEBI's, so to say, the last word or the latest statement on this. And this is where we stand in the entire Hindenburg Adani saga, which has been going on for about 1.5 years now.
So in short, from how I have understood this, what Hindenburg and its report is alleging is that the SEBI chairperson, the current SEBI chairperson, is not the perfect person to actually investigate any of the things that have been alleged against Adani, is because they are directly invested in the entire process. And the next follow-up question naturally would be the specific evidences that they have provided. So what are the evidences?
So the evidences, and that's where I think the second report is actually not as credible and solid as it appears and as it is made out to be. So for the first one, they just say that there is an offshore fund that IIFL as a company used to run. And that's the company in which Gautam Adani's brother has invested, and that money has made its way through to the Adani group. And the fund in which the SEBI chairperson and her husband have invested is also the fund by IIFL. Now, that's the only thing they've said. They have not proved, or they have not provided any proof for the funds actually going to Adani or the fund holding Adani shares. They've only said it's the same company which manages both the funds. Therefore, there could be a possibility that these are interconnected. Interestingly, IIFL again is a listed company, and they have come out with their filing with the stock exchange to say that the fund in which the chairperson and her husband have invested have never ever dealt with any security belonging to the Adani group. And those have been different. And within months of her taking over as, becoming a part of SEBI, they have actually redeemed those units. And they were forming 1.5% of the total capital of that fund. And therefore, they couldn't have influenced any decision as to where the money had to go. So in terms of the proof that Hindenburg has provided, in my view, having gone through some of these and what is in public domain, I don't think they've been able to make even a prima facie case that there's actually a conflict and the SEBI chairperson is indeed invested in some of the Adani companies directly or indirectly. That's my view on the first allegation alone.
But what about the dates? There was some conflict about the dates. They say they joined at X year, but before joining, she had already resigned from all the posts. Like, what is the fuss about the dates? I'm not able to understand that dates, but
yeah, so that is important. I'll tell you the reason. Is the current SEBI chairperson is the first one who's a lateral hire or coming in from the non-government background. So until the current chairperson assumed the role, we had only had mostly IAS officers and some of them from other government organizations like IDBI, etc., becoming the chairperson of or the chairman of SEBI. Incidentally, she's the first lady to be holding this post. So somebody who came from outside. The two dates that are indeed confusing is because before becoming the chairperson, she was a whole-time member of the SEBI board. So there was a point when she was admitted to the SEBI board and she was just a board member. And thereafter, she became a chairperson. So none of these transactions are after she's become a chairperson, but some of them are between that intervening period where she was a whole-time member but not a chairperson.
So then what is the fuss about? Like, I'm not able to understand.
Yeah, so on purely the holding of shares, indirectly in Adani, I don't think there's much that they've been able to make out. In fact, their response to her response doesn't even talk of it much. So I think on the first allegation alone, which is to say that uh, they were invested in a fund which is invested in Adani, I think that's sort of been almost conclusively debunked. I don't think that is something that they've been able to establish even as a prima facie thing.
Okay, so I'm just trying to read. So what some people are saying, the SEBI chief should have recused herself from the Adani investigation, is what some people are accusing the SEBI chief of, that she has not recused herself. Is that the real story?
Yeah, so that's the ask that some of the people have had, to say that if indeed she was having these conflicts, she should have recused herself. Now, what is also to be noted is SEBI as an organization has a model code of conduct of conflict for all its whole-time members, including the chairperson, where they are supposed to disclose companies in which they had shares, and if any matter relating to that does come up, they're required to not participate in it, etc. But here, she never had any investment in Adani, or directly or indirectly, or any of those things when the investigation started or were ongoing. Now, if she did have a long time back, when she was actually a private citizen or nothing to do with SEBI, or did not have a influencing role in SEBI, is that a reason enough for her to be recusing? And is there actually a conflict today, is the question that needs to be seen. But the people who are asking for this are really asking it basis that the normal governance principles, any of the corporate governance principles you take, leaving all these issues aside, is if you are a party who's in conflicted, who has some other motives for investment, you need to be stepping aside, or you need to be recusing yourself from that matter and not be taking decisions on this. Even if your official role requires you to take a decision on that, you should be leaving it to others.
But I think that's a fair demand, right? On the face of it, I don't see any problematic thing in that. Like, what is so problematic?
Definitely not. There's nothing problematic in that, provided you actually are conflicted. Because if you
Hmm.
are conflicted, then you need to be staying out. The question that we need to be asking is this chairperson conflicted at the time of those investigations and decisions? Now, if you were invested in a mutual fund, and that mutual fund had stake in some company, you had no decision making, you had no powers to influence where the mutual fund invested its money. Are you said to be conflicted because of indirect holding? Firstly, this indirect holding was long time back and she redeemed it. These are the questions, and I don't think on the principles of corporate governance there's any doubts that if somebody is conflicted, they ought not to be sitting in decision making. The question that we need to be asking is she actually conflicted, or was she conflicted when she took some of these decisions?
Hmm. So I just want to read something that the Wire has written. Now somebody is like, oh, Kushal, well, my job is to read every single media portal, whether it's the Wire, Scroll, News Laundry, Swaraj, or anything. In fact, that is something that I do, which is how you actually try to understand a subject better,
Right.
is you read everybody. So the Wire has written this. I want to, this is more informative than accusative, I would
Right.
say. So this says basically it is two of the SEBI chief for consulting firms. One is Aghora Advisory, which is based in India, Aghora Advisory, and one is Aghora Consulting, which is based in Singapore. This has come in the limelight on August 10th with the Hindenburg report.
Yes.
Now, what they are reporting is, along with her husband, Dhaval Buch, they are invested in controversial offshore funds linked to the Adani siphoning scandal. And by the way, Wire says they have not denied this allegation.
Right.
Wire is quoting exactly. The Indian consulting firm was set up by Madhabi before she assumed the post of SEBI's chairperson. According to the documents from the Registrar of Companies, Aghora Advisory was incorporated on May 7, 2013, with Madhabi as one of the two directors. The firm's incorporation certificate mentions an address in Ghatkopar East. The auditor of Aghora Advisory, a chartered accountancy firm called Shah and Savla LLP, is registered at the same address according to its filings. According to a report, two other firms founded by Madhabi R Naira Impact Solutions Private Limited and R Naira Development Foundation also have the same address. She resigned from their boards before joining SEBI in 2017. Dhaval Buch has been a director in these firms since 2017. Now, if she has resigned, then what is the problem?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what the issue here and what they're trying to build. The Aghora bit is there in the Hindenburg report as well. So what they are alleging here is she's probably holding you know another business interest where there is consulting income. Again, we need to remember that she's come from the outside. She's not been in the system. She's not a bureaucrat. And bureaucrats, all the civil servants have service rules and restrictions on business, restrictions on having other income transactions, etc. She was a successful professional, top of the game. Both the couple, they've had a long stint. They've been outside India for a long time. Therefore, they had a company outside India, in India, for consulting income. So they were earning consulting income in these companies. The moment she came on board to SEBI, she actually stepped down and transferred, and it is her husband's company, is her side of the story. Now, what she says is these are independent, these have become dormant, etc. Now, I think this is where there's a need for some more answers to come out. Some more facts have to come out without a doubt, because the allegation, and there we need facts to see whether it is substantive or not, is what is the income that this company is earning? Who is paying this consulting money to them? And to just, like you started the conversation, if you were to just put credence into what the other side is saying against the SEBI chief, what they're saying is, if there's a consulting company which has X lakhs, X crores, whatever the number could be, not relevant, has consulting income, what if that money has actually come from somebody related to the person being investigated? Therefore, they are compromised. We have no idea where that money has come from. We have no idea what that income represents or where it is, where the source is, and therefore she ought not to be having any other consulting income. Now, she has said that she stepped down, those companies have become dormant, but there's still some income that is shown by these companies which are owned by her/her husband. I think the right approach here, and maybe we'll get there, but we need to wait and see, is for her to disclose as to what are these transactions, where are these income coming from. Now, if these are consulting income, husband is a senior professional, again, with wealth of experience. He's been a consultant. He's offering services to unrelated companies, nothing to do with his investigation. And those are the companies which have paid this income. I don't think there's a conflict. But we really need more information as to what this income and what these companies are actually doing before we can rule out a possibility of there being a conflict on this second issue.
Fair enough. So the wire further states that the documents filed with the registrar of companies also revealed that Madhabi held 99% stake in Aghora Advisory until late as March 2024, even though Dhaval had replaced her as a director in 2017. The firm was active between 19 and 24 and has made 3.63 crore in revenue from its operation, according to the scroll. Hindenburg research such as August and Revelations also said that the firm had reported a revenue of 1.98 crore in 21-22, more than 4 times Butch's salary as a SEBI chairperson. See, now this is something very silly. Like, what has Butch's salary got to do with what are the revenues of the firm? Like, this is just innuendo and leading. Like, I don't
Agreed.
understand.
Agreed. That's where, I think, see, which is where we go back to the intent and why Hindenburg is doing. And you need to remember that the more sensational the news is, the more the market reacts. Therefore, yes, some of these are built on facts, correcting numbers which really don't make sense. And the one that you picked up is absolutely right. As in, how many, whatever the factor of the salary, how does it matter? If
Yeah.
that consulting income is right, if that consulting income has come from unrelated parties, it should not matter whether it's 1 crore or 10 crores or 10 lakhs or 5 lakhs. But on this fact alone, on this allegation alone, I think we need to get some more information, and there should be some disclosures that need to be made as to what this income and what this company was actually doing. And in the later years, 23, 24, if I remember the numbers right, the revenue from operation was some 6 lakh rupees or something like that. So it could be any of the income that they have earned. But there is definitely a need for the chairperson and her husband to actually disclose as to what these income represent and who it's come from.
Yeah. So basically, this is the Allegation. So, what are the Adani related allegations against the Butch as per Scroll? The Hindenburg report says that in December 23, an investigation by the non profit Adani Watch claimed that a firm called Global Dynamic Opportunities Firm, based in the tax haven Bermuda, was one of the entities used by the by Adani Group chief Gautam Adani's brother Vinod Adani to allegedly manipulate the stock market. In turn, Global Dynamic Opportunities Fund invested in IPE Plus Fund 1, a fund registered in Mauritius, another tax haven country, the investigation showed. The Mauritius fund then invested in the Indian financial markets. Citing documents obtained from a whistleblower, Hindenburg has claimed that Madhabi and Dhaval Buch first invested in IPE Plus Fund in June 2015. This was before Madhabi Buch was appointed a whole-time member of the SEBI of India in 2017. If she has invested before she was a SEBI chief, why is anybody concerned about what is happening? Again, what is the problem here? I'm reading verbatim what Scroll has written. भाई
Absolutely.
मैं 2017 में ज्वाइन किया है. This is from 2015. What has one got to do with other? Like, I am no
Yeah.
family member of Madhabi Buch. I don't care. I don't know her.
Yes, and also important is in 2018 it's got redeemed. It becomes even better because in 2018 it's got redeemed. Now in 15, if she invested, I think people who are having a professional, they're having an independent career and who gets called by the government. I don't think in 15 she would have even had an idea that she would get a call from SEBI. She would be with SEBI, and at some point she'll be investigating Adani.
Yeah.
Now, what is worrying for me personally on some of these is, we should not end up throwing the baby with the bathwater here.
Yeah.
We really need to get to the bottom of this. No doubt, I'm not for a minute discounting that or being flippant about the allegations made. But the question is, if there is a professional who's come in as a lateral, and I think that's a good thing that's been happening in this government. She understands the market. She's been in the market. She understands different things and different aspects of the market rather than somebody being just airdropped from outside the sector. So if you want people like that to be coming into the government and helping the government with important roles like this, should you actually be getting into these kind of issues to say some 2 years before she actually took up the government assignment, she had an investment? This is so common in US. Forget roles like these. Treasury secretaries have come from the Wall Street there. They sell their stock before they come in. There's in fact a tax exemption for some of those. They would have held multiple things. Even today in the current uh, you know uh, government setup in the US as well, there are people who've been successful outside. And Trump himself was there, had a business, had shares. And tomorrow, could you have said that before he became the president, some 3 years back, something was done? Of course, some of those allegations are there. But how do you see this? According to me, if you want more lateral hires, you want good, successful private professionals coming in, making the government things better. We need to be taking a slightly different view on some of these. US has certain other things where you actually can put all your investments into a trust and then you pick it up once you go back after your government work. Until that, you have no say, you have no control over those things. Those are the things that we need to be facilitating. uh, you know I know that lateral hires in even the finance ministry, etc., there are people who moved in from successful business roles, chartered accountants who are today sitting in MOF as joint secretaries, under secretaries, etc. I think we need more of that. I don't think that should be a casualty of what's coming out here while an investigation has to happen. You can't just assume and presume guilt from the word go.
This is my biggest fear, Ajay, and I'm glad that you have raised this because I am not saying what Mr. and Mrs. Butch have done. I'm not aware of. I did not even know who they were, what they were until this entire saga has unfolded in the last few days. I honestly did not know the name of the SEBI chief. I could care less. यार मेरा क्या लेना देना, मैं तो एक average Indian हूँ, मुझे क्या लेना देना SEBI के chief से. But the point is that it saddens me because this just strengthens the Babu's case of running SEBI and RBI as a fiefdom of the Babus. Because what the Babus will do is, see, you got a lateral entry. See, these lateral entry people come with all these kinds of strings attached.
Absolutely.
And mark my word, Ajay, as someone who has friends in the government, all governments, by the way, I know how much resistance lateral entries. I'll give you an example, Ajay. So we have this category called officer on special duty.
Yeah,
Everybody knows
OSDs.
about it. Take
Yes,
OSDs hote hain. OSDs are usually these professionals, right? Who are gotten from
correct,
outside, brought inside governments, and at multiple, whether it's at the state level, we have OSDs, whether if it's at the central level, we have OSDs. And OSDs are resisted tooth and nail by the cadre, the Babu
right,
cadre. The OSDs come from a very corporatized world, a very corporate background, a very corporate mindset, and the Babudom hates them with a passion. This is not a pitch for Mr. and Mrs. Butch. This is a
completely
pitch
agree.
for the concept of lateral entries. And what I worry is, and this is the typical communist mindset of the average Indian intellectual, they hate this. We tried, and I'm so happy you brought the American example. Are yaar, if we actually look at Americana, then everybody has a conflict of interest
Correct.
from top to
Yes,
bottom. Everyone. Are ye JD Vance ki story study karo. JD Vance kahan se, from where JD started, he was hired by X. He has worked in funds and many other companies. Then he enters politics. So मतलब
correct.
कोई भी नहीं आ सकता business world में, politics में यार.
And also you need to remember another thing related to this. And I am now making allegations and accusations as wildly as Hindenburg has, that a lot of this has come out from whistleblowers. So I won't personally rule out a internal sabotage in terms of some of this being shared, because Hindenburg does say that some of these emails, filings that have been made are from whistleblower. So who knows, there could actually be a good disclosure by the SEBI chief to people in SEBI, and these are actually documents available there, because she is the first person from outside the bureaucracy to come in and take this position at SEBI, which is a really powerful position.
The next thing that I want to talk to you about is how much of this is geopolitical, because how much of this is interference in our markets and trying to destabilize our markets, and through our markets our economy. Let's not beat around the bush. The Indian stock market has been giving, on average, even in the worst case scenario in mutual funds, a return of 12 to 16 or 18 or 20% on
Correct.
average, is since the last 5 years at least. And if you look at the decade long performance, it's been average of 13 to 17%.
We are one of the
From what
highest in the
We
last
are
10
one of the
years.
best performing stock markets in the world. If you were invested in the Indian stock markets in the last decade and you are a long time holder, you have made a killing. Let's not beat around the bush. Everybody has
Yes.
made money in the Indian stock markets. And I sometimes feel some people in the West, as much as they like India to prosper, they really don't like India to prosper so much. And this is a subtle way of hitting at us.
It could be. Can't rule that out at all. Because this is actually being done from outside the shores. And what is actually making a difference this time, and I'm no expert in the market dynamics, but from whatever little I can understand, that there is actually an increased investment from the domestic investors, the SIPs that are happening, etc. Therefore, I don't think it's so easy to sit outside and influence the markets anymore. And also, you've seen how after the second report has come, I think there's been not much of a panic selling across the board, etc., and things like that. But would I rule out, or as an Indian, would I put it beyond my imagination to say that something like this could have happened? Definitely not. As somebody who's patriotic, wants to see the country do well, and happy about where we are in the last many years, I think if someone is trying to do this to derail our markets and therefore the economy, I won't rule that out. It's not a wild thought. There could be some truth in that.
So, what do you make of the market response? It was obviously a damn squib. The market did not give a damn about these allegations. So, let's talk about that a bit. Why do you think that happened?
So I think, see, the first time they came out with the allegations, there was a clear drop. Adani also reacted differently. They withdrew their FPO that was there, etc. And I think there was some time for people to digest what had actually come out, what happened at the Supreme Court, what SEBI was doing, and the market including the Adani stocks, bounced back. Adani stocks didn't get back to the old levels, but they did bounce back. This time around, I think what happened was the whole allegation was around the SEBI chief. And, you know, the amount of work that she's done within the, market participants, the knowledge that is there, I think that her credentials and her reputation was good to be just sullied by this kind of a mudslinging. Therefore, over the weekend, if you saw any of the people who mattered for the markets, the analysts, the top investors, people who advise, not really the influencers on Instagram and Telegram, etc., but the people who matter, all came out in one voice to say that you can't be doing this and this can't be true and you can't be taking these kind of allegations. There's no truth in this, etc. AMFI, the Mutual Fund Association, etc., came out with statements. So there was, amongst the people who mattered, there was a clear message that there's absolutely no truth in this. Yes, there could be a need for investigation, but it's not that bad and it's not what they are making out. There is no systemic risk. There is no larger problem in the market, because today they were hitting at the market. The second report was not about one stock. The second report was not aimed at bringing Adani stock down. The second report was aimed at telling that your market regulator is compromised, your market regulator is not independent. Therefore, there's a larger problem that you have. And therefore, I think the response from where I see was good, was mature. I don't think our market is as they expected, that there'll be across the board panic selling. Whatever I've seen, and there's no official statement, official confirmation, the instrument that they were holding to make money to short was also on the entire market, not on the Adani stocks. Therefore, they were expecting all round, across the board selling, across the board panic, which did not happen.
And what do you make of a response of a certain section of our society, whether it's the political class or the commentariat? I mean, it hurts me because at the end of the day, listen, full disclosure, I live outside India half the year, but I still 100% of my investments are in the Indian market. एक चवन्नी नहीं डाली है India के बाहर. That's how much I believe in the Indian story. What hurts me is that I don't care who the SEBI chief is, man. Why are you undermining the Indian markets, and why is the Indian opposition playing into these hands?
I think that is, which is where one of my earliest comments, even on Twitter, was that I don't think there'll be a impact on the market per se, or there's anything very damaging in the report. But I always knew from the word go, from the minute I saw that this will be used and abused and milked politically, dry. The report, and also remember how they played this out. Hindenburg, as if there was a movie being released and then a blockbuster one. You put out a trailer, they said something big coming. You don't do that. If you're silently, you want to make a money, you want to make your money, release your report and get on with it. No, you've taken us. What is the need for you to say there's something big coming? And after all this, the report comes out, if I remember, 9:45, 10 p.m. or whatever. 90 minutes from then, 11:30 or 12 midnight, Congress statement was out. And they're already read, digested to say that SEBI chief has to go, JPC has to be there. And the whole thing was, we need a JPC, and that's what it is. So whether there is credence, truth, you need an investigation, doesn't matter. The straight after, the first thing that they started doing was that we will go after the government on this. I think, was I, upset, hurt? Yes. But was I surprised? No. Because I knew that this is what has been happening, right? Some of these are used more by the politics and by the opposition here than what it deserves. You actually made it more important. You gave it more importance than it actually needed. Imagine if they had actually said that we believe in the market, we believe in the investigation, the SEBI chief will come and give her answers. We will wait until she gives her side of the story. We will hear what the truth is, and then we will comment. No, 11:30, you say that this is what it is. There's a JPC and she has to go, because now I even saw statements which said that there's a link established. There were all kinds of malicious, wrong campaigns linking the SEBI chief and Adani about her daughter being married to his son, etc., when she doesn't even have a daughter.
Now, I personally want to spend some time actually making the case for because I think it's very important. Now, yeah, people are talking about that 2018 February email to the manager of global dynamic opportunities, where I think it was apparently uh, she told that uh, wo shares should be, I think, to ask the fund manager to divest the shares after she has transferred them. I mean, the insinuation being made is she was still controlling them, blah blah blah. But the point is not that. My point is that now I want to spend at least a few minutes talking about RBI and SEBI as institutions. What is their record? Are they independent? Is the Indian stock market being regulated properly? And from what I understand, I'll give you an example. Like Monica, who's a dear friend who comes on the podcast regularly. Monica is part of many SEBI committees also. She constantly goes there. And Monica was telling me how much, if anything, the Indian regulator is over conservative when it comes to protection of Indian market interests. Because one of the things in the last podcast Monica had told me was that because nowadays tier 2 tier 3 city youngsters have started investing in stock markets, they are so paranoid that these young kids might lose money. Is one of the reasons they had this capital gain tax nudge. They're like, इन बच्चों को बचाना पड़ेगा क्योंकि ये लोग तो मतलब जैसे क्रिकेट में बैटिंग कर रहे हैं वैसे स्टॉक मार्केट खेलना शुरू हो जाएंगे. एंड दे वर रियली कंसर्न. So when I talk to Indian serious, experts like you, Monica, and many others who actually meet these people, who actually interact with these
Right.
people, I get the image that these people actually have a very paternalistic view of the Indian population. And the Hindenburg guys are saying, no, RBI and SEBI is out to devour you. They are the worst thing
Correct.
on planet Earth.
So I absolutely agree with the statement that they are, I want on record with this that I've dealt with multiple regulators, but if I were to pick just two regulators who are top notch of all the ones that I've dealt with, it's RBI and SEBI. Now, in terms of their conservative approach, I'll just take three examples and it just drives the whole thing home. And it has nothing to do with the government in power, by the way. What was the impact that India had on the 2008 subprime crisis? We were almost unscratched. There was some exposure that ICICI had, if I remember right, ICICI Bank had on the subprime thing, that too indirectly through some branch outside, whatever. That's because the RBI was not permitting some of these instruments. They were careful back then. Second, again, on crypto, we've had all kinds of things about the RBI. The RBI, governor, and Shaktikant Das has gone on record to say that we will not allow crypto because he very famously said in the tulip mania, at least there was a tulip. And here, what is their underlying? So, they've had a very strong position on crypto. Yes, there were a lot of the new age crypto, exchanges, companies which made representation. They said, you should be permitting us. Then banks stopped giving bank accounts. Then RBI relaxed it a bit, and then they pulled it back again. We had press writing all days that these people are shifting to Dubai. They're going to Singapore. We are losing crypto thing. RBI didn't budge. They just didn't budge. We did not have anything on that. Now, coming to SEBI, today you log into any of the broker accounts online. The first warning, and it's because of SEBI, it has to come. And for everybody, whoever trades, whoever buys, when they log in, they'll see that 80% of the F&O players don't make money. This is the thing. This is the average loss. These are disclosures that is made. More like a Shashi warning that you have on the cigarette pack. They've done something like that. Now, these are not regulators who are not caring for the people who they are required to protect. And which is where my initial reaction, and that day, the amount of tweet that I put out was, I got called all kinds of names, but I was not for a minute defending either Adani or anything larger than the fact that you cannot be throwing mud at SEBI so casually. And that is where the problem this time is. I think they've chosen the wrong regulator, Hindenburg. I think that's where the market reaction also played out, because they also, I think the market players do believe. Of course, the SEBI chief is not very famous amongst some of the people that she's gone after, whether it is people who are influencing the markets, the number of orders that we've seen on TV anchors taking positions before the show and things like that. We've not seen some of these happen as often in the past. So she's been somebody who's doing that job. So again, RBI, SEBI, absolutely no doubt, they are our top regulators. Is there a scope for improvement? There's always a scope for improvement in everything that we do. But here, I think it's just an incremental small thing. There's nothing that we need to completely revamp, rehash, nothing of that sort for both of them.
In fact, the irony is, I remember the SEBI chief only once in my life where she had made that statement on these finfluencers, and they had changed the rule and cracked a whip on these finfluencers. And I was like, wow, damn. I remember that day. I was like, who's this person? Like, she sounds like that typical Indian auntie. Oh, chup jao. So sab log ko- it was quite a sight to see SEBI crack down on these YouTube uh, finfluencers who were just and just selling anything and saying anything. And SEBI basically said, be careful what you're doing, and we are watching you, and if you cross the line, which is why I keep trying to tell people, SEBI as an organization and RBI as an organization, most people who are actually invested in the Indian stock markets, the only time they give RBI and SEBI a gali is because they're so conservative and risk averse that they are annoyingly risk averse. So why would they take a risk? And that's the history of RBI and SEBI. They're the most risk averse organizations I've come across.
And also the kind of people they deal with, the kind of issues they deal with, I don't think they can, either of them can be a soft touch regulator. It won't work.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, now let me take a few questions before we wrap up. Now, this is a legitimate question. What's the harm of forming a JPC to shut out all the noise? What's your view on that?
So I'll tell you what my worry of JPC is. This will get even more political. I
Ah,
think what we need to do is actually view this, dehorse the politics minus the politics. Is there a need to investigate, get more information? Like I've said multiple times in the last 1 hour that we've, or 40 minutes that we've spoken, that yes, there is more facts that need to come out. There's more disclosure that has to happen. But I think there's a way to do that. I don't think JPC will achieve that. I don't think discussing in the parliament will achieve that, because this is just going to get political. Then what happens when the opposition makes it political is the government digs its heels. Then you don't get anywhere, because then it just becomes a face off. Rather than that, it really needs to be a, you know now, if can it be an investigation by SEBI when she's there? I think the answer here is transparency and disclosure. All that needs to be done is for them to come out to say that these are the transactions, this is what it is. One of the things that one of the channels or somewhere, I was asked as to what can be done. My personal view, I think some of this we should get to a point where these can be put out on the website. Like, judges are required to do the MPs are required to file along with their affidavits. I think once you take public office, you can disclose all your assets and transactions in conflict, so
absolutely.
that people who see it can know what the truth is. I think somewhere the answer lies there, in my view, and not in a JPC. I really personally am not in favor of a JPC.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, somebody has made another comment saying that the CBI FBI director will not be the investigating officer of any case. Shouldn't the same be with SEBI and any other regulator? I mean, having her sit on top of this just seems very silly and stupid.
So, we need to look at uh, the who is being investigated here. In the first one, it's Adani. In the second showcase, it's Hindenburg. So she's not, it's after the last allegations of Hindenburg have come out that there are doubts on her. She's not sitting in judgment of her role. She's not investigating herself. She's investigating Adani in one case and Hindenburg in the other. And if there is no conflict, then I see no reason why she shouldn't be doing both. On the last bit is where, whether there's a conflict or not, some of facts need to come out to clearly establish this. I think once that happens, if she's not conflicted, then why should she not be involved in the investigation?
Yeah, and listen, if she held those shares and those companies before she joined SEBI, like, what is the problem? It goes back to the fundamental issue that you and I started with. Like, if this criteria is going to be set in an increasingly globalized world where, let's say tomorrow we have an Indian origin boy or girl who drops their American citizenship or has an OCI. I'm just creating a hypothetical. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it will happen. Okay, they come here and they join some important office as a lateral entry. And then somebody finds out, oh, he was invested in the New York Stock Exchange in this company. Arey Baba, matlab, has that person done something fundamentally wrong? Is what the investigation should show. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. And if that
Agree.
is the case, then fine, then punish them accordingly.
Completely agree with you.
So somebody has said, well, if the RBI and SEBI are paternalistic, all the more reason why the left will go after them because they hate the notion of the family. So before we wrap up, what do you think is the future in this entire thing? How should India isolate this, and what do we conclude? Like, is there any truth to this? What is the truth to this? How should India and Indian markets now gauge themselves? And because I refuse to believe there is no geopolitics involved in this, and there is no politics involved in this. Like, Hindenburg can't come up with a 400-page report, and Congress can't come up with a tweet in 2 hours, and we can't assume that, oh, everything is hunky dory. Like, how did you read 400 pages? I read 4 hours daily. I can't finish,
Right.
yeah, 200 pages in 4 hours. How did these people finish 400 pages? What are they, like AI bots or something? So the point is, my last question, and then we'll and this will be our closing pitch. How do we wrap all of this up, and how do we eventually know the truth about anything about the Hindenburg thing?
So I think we just need to wait for SEBI to come out with its investigation conclusion report, show cause notice, whatever it is. The latest statement that they have said 24 investigations, 22 are complete, one more is almost complete, and the last one will also be complete soon. Uh, no investigator is going to put out an interim report. You're not going to go and educate or uh, prepare the defense as to what they need to be doing. So SEBI is doing its job. I think the first and foremost that I would do is wait for SEBI to come out with its report on Adani. Today, the presumption is that they've already given a clean chit to Adani, therefore they're compromised. What if you actually get a report in the next 1 month which actually says, yes, there are issues, there are non-compliances, and the SEBI report actually nails Adani? Would you still say that she was, compromised and were not independent? I think that's the first thing that we have to do. Wait till those reports come out. Could they have done it earlier? Yes. You can always say, why are they taking so long, etc. I have my own personal view on that, because I don't think they would have wanted to do a shoddy job, get that report thrown out at the courts. Because please remember, the report and the findings that SEBI will come out with will be under a lens and under the microscope, and all possible ways to, if it is going to be a negative report, all possible ways to get it thrown out will be used. Therefore they would rather build a watertight case. They're doing that work. I think that's the first and foremost, that we wait to see what actually comes out of the investigation. Second is really somewhere Hindenburg is not willing to respond to show cause notices, etc. I think they've been on their own trip, and there are people even in India telling, does Indian regulator actually have a jurisdiction to go after them and things like that. Therefore, that's the second piece. On the final one, I think the way forward should be that there will be more answers, more disclosure that will come out, hopefully from the SEBI and the SEBI chief, as to what the factual position on conflict, independence, etc. is. I would personally wait to see what comes out. We can't wait in eternity. I think there are some petitions already before the Supreme Court. I think SEBI will now be forced to work quicker, faster, and come out with its finding. I would, for one, reserve what needs to be done, what is the outcome until that. Do we need to do anything very differently to stop these kind of things? I don't think so. I think if we want to be with the big boys, be in the market, challenge these people, you can't have a closed economy. 2001, if I remember right, 1 to 6, 1 to 8, whatever, short selling was banned in India. You couldn't short sell. So therefore, one way to keep all these people out is to again close our markets, take out all these kind of instruments, etc. I don't think we should be doing any of that. These are part and parcel of really competing with the big ones, swimming with the sharks. You need to do some of these things. We have to learn our way to get out of these situations. learn to deal with it rather than become a closed economy, a protectionist thing again, more control, more powers to the babu. I don't think we should be going a few steps back on that.
Fair enough, Ajay. Thanks a lot for coming and educating me and everyone else, because I think the fundamental point in all of this is that I think the faith in the Indian markets and in the Indian regulators is far more important. And I want to put this on record. I will trust the RBI and SEBI as much as I dislike them over an Hindenburg. I just want
I
to put this on record. I'm sorry,
plus one.
Hindenburg. I mean, Hindenburg ki koi auqat nahi hai as far as I'm concerned. Um, they are the worst form of creatures. They have skin in the game. They literally profit off of this shit. So to come off as, oh, we are so pure and pious. You're not a not-for-profit company. You're a short seller yourself. You actually do this shit to make money. So Hindenburg, take a hike. Uh, whatever flaws the RBI and SEBI have, and whatever flaws India as a country has, we'll deal with that as Indians. You keep your nose out of this entire episode. And if the SEBI chief has done something wrong, let the Indian law take care of it. Hindenburg is no one to interfere when they are a for-profit organization themselves. Ajay, thank you very much for coming, brother.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be on this. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for this.
yeah, and I can't wait to troll you on RCB, bro. Yeah.
We'll give you enough opportunities.
Uh, all right, guys, we'll close today's discussion here. So Ajay's Twitter or X handle is in the description of this podcast. So whether you're listening to this on Spotify or you're watching this on in the video version on YouTube, Facebook, wherever, go follow him on X. As far as I'm concerned, the Cārvāka podcast is a member-driven podcast. So if you can, do consider joining the membership program of the Cārvāka podcast. You can become a member on YouTube and Patreon, both, wherever you want to. You can also send direct donations to kushalmehra at ICICI through UPI. You can buy the Cārvāka podcast merchandise on kushalmehra.com or on Kadak Merch. If you can't do anything, just if you're an audio listener, leave a rating in your preferred audio platform, or like the video, subscribe to the Cārvāka podcast YouTube channel, and leave a comment in the comment section. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, namaste. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you.